This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hello, pet lovers. This is Michelle Fern, your host on Best Bets for Pets. Today, I have a book for you that it's amazing. It's called For the Love of Dog, and it is, not only is it illustrated amazingly, but it's about a border collie close to my heart. And the book is so well written. There's so much great information. I cannot wait to talk to the author. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Take a bite out of your competition. Advertise your business with an ad in Pet Life Radio podcasts and radio shows. There is no other pet-related media that is as large and reaches more pet parents and pet lovers than Pet Life Radio. With over 7 million monthly listeners, Pet Life Radio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms, and our live radio stream goes out to over 250 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn, and other streaming apps. For more information on how you can advertise on the #1 pet podcast and radio network, visit PetLifeRadio.com/advertise today.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to welcome Pilley Bianchi. She is the author of For the Love of Dog, The Ultimate Relationship Guide. Welcome, Pilley.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me here today.
I'm so excited to have you. Okay, this is some book. I had no idea what to expect when it came across, the waves of email. And I've had a lot of books on Best Bets for Pets. A lot. Many, many, many. And this is definitely one of my favorites. Not only did you talk about the relationship of this amazing dog, but you kind of intertwine stories and advice. It's just amazing. But let's talk about it more so the listeners know. So this book is about Chaser, who's an amazing border collie, and your father, who amazingly taught Chaser so much, including an outstanding vocabulary. Tell us briefly about the book, better than I did, of course, and then, which I'm sure, and then what made you decide to write this book?
Oh, wow. That is such a good question. And, there's a story. There has to be a story behind every book. And this one has a rich and deep history. My father and Chaser kind of set the world on fire about 12 years ago when their research went globally viral. He had the goal of teaching Chaser human language. So she ended up having the largest language learning of any animal in the world. And that included primates and dolphins, simply because of the way that she could combine words. And he was a retired psychology professor emeritus, and he had used dogs in his Wofford College classroom from the 80s and 90s. But it wasn't until his retirement that he really knew what he wanted to do with exploring the boundaries of the canine mind. And that was with Chaser, his new puppy. He got her when he was 76, and he decided to teach her human language. And in order to learn any language, you need a vocabulary. And those vocabulary words would be her toys. So he taught her the names of over 1,000 objects, but she could use them in concert with verbs and adjectives. It was the way that she was able to string sentences together that garnered so much attention. And when their research went globally viral in 2011, he is the scientist that actually gave the world affirmation that dogs are not only as smart as we believe them to be, but they are capable of so much more. So I became their producer for the past 12 years in international media and television, film, and print. And I was a ghostwriter on his first book about Chaser, and I'm continuing his legacy with this book now.
Well, thank you for giving us all the backstory for the love of dog. Where do I start? We talked about this a little before, the show, and I mentioned that I love border collies, love them. When I decided to get my first dog, both my dogs were rescues, and both of them were border collie mixes. And I always said to myself, you have to get a border collie mix because they have so much energy. You're not going to be able to, right? They have so much.
They do.
That you're not going to be okay with just a full-on border collie. And they are so smart.
You bring that up because a lot of times border collies are listed in articles and pieces as being like the most intelligent breed. But, what we discovered with Chaser is, yes, their energy is boundless. And she just wore me out, I have to tell you. And so she and my dad were a great match because he had so much energy and a thirst for knowledge, which was really he matched Chaser's own thirst for knowledge. And border collies have an affinity for language and the nuance of sound and paying attention to minute details that are really kind of lost on us mere mortals. So she was a great match for him as far as really exploring the boundaries of her mind. But we believe that all dogs have an innate genius.
That was my next question. I was going to ask about the relationship between your father and Chaser, but you had told me, you had Chaser as a puppy. And with Chaser, was the goal to, let's see what I could do? Or, I'm just going to have a puppy for fun, or it's not in your father's, it wasn't in your father's, makeup to just say, oh, a puppy for fun. No, I have to do more than that. The dog needs more than that. I need more than that.
Right. Well, that's a really interesting question and not really one that has come up before, so I appreciate it. The dogs that came before Chaser, it was really the dog that came before Chaser, who was a border collie mix. His name was Yasha. And my father was a whitewater paddler, and Yasha would go with him everywhere in the classroom and on hiking trips. He was very athletic, assertive dog. And it was Yasha's ability to learn behaviors very rapidly and his quench for adventure that really had my father thinking about the intelligence of dogs. And so in the 80s and 90s, he would bring Yasha into the classroom and try with the goal of teaching him human language, because primates were learning languages. Lewis Herman was teaching dolphins languages. And so he's like, well, why can't we teach a dog language? So what he discovered was he was not successful in his teaching years of teaching Yasha human language. He could teach behaviors very rapidly, but to teach him independent words, verbs, independent of nouns, was not within his grasp. And this disappointed him greatly. And after Yasha died, it really, really hit him hard. And so it was another 10 years before he was able to get another dog. And that dog was Chaser. And she was a gift from my mother to my dad for Christmas, because she was tired of him moping around the house. And she knew that he needed another friend. So when he got Chaser, he decided he was going to try to teach her language. And after 10 years, he knew where he went wrong. And boy, he was right. He got it right with Chaser when he started teaching her when she was just 8 weeks old.
Wow. I'm amazed. I think of the things I've taught my dogs in the past and nothing even close. Although some of the behaviors, I think Mr. Zeus had this trick when I lived in a 2-story that he used to do. And we didn't call it anything. I would just, tell him it's this time and my words for it. And he would just know, and he got excited and he would do it.
Yes.
And all of that. So more like a behavior. I have a question, but I think I know the answer in a sense. But why teach dogs language? There's a lot of animal stuff that, having gone to, Global Pet Expo for years and being in this industry and all that I've learned to me, it seems like it makes the human animal bond stronger.
Wow. Okay. You just hit that nail right on the head. And it's communication. And the more that we're able to communicate with a different species, but also within our own species, we've discovered we have thousands of forms of communication that we use every day, whether it's verbal or visual, coding. There are thousands of ways that we can communicate. And the greater that we can expand our world of communication, the greater our relationships are going to be. So language is very, very important. And we discovered with Chaser that the more that she understood human language, the more we understood her language, because it's a two-way street. You got to pay attention. Dogs speak to us all the time. That's one comment that people write to us about frequently is, I wish my dog could talk. And the answer is they do. We got to pay attention. So if that's a two-way street, it's a win-win for both species.
I love that. And, while you were saying that you have to pay attention, my other show is Catitude. And, cats are so different from my learnings. I think, dogs are easier to read. So sometimes, and this, I'm just thinking of myself. I'm not putting my thoughts on anyone. I'm not a scientist, but I think sometimes since dogs are easy to read, we don't try to read them as well. Cats, you have to study, and you have to make sure you read them right or you can get swiped. So, I love them, but I had to learn how to love cats. They're not little dogs. They're a whole different thing. But you intensely watch them, right? You watch them because you don't want to get injured. Dogs are much more forgiving, but I don't think we watch them as closely to see the little nuances in their expressions.
That's so true. And I'm saying this as my cat lies in my desk drawer to my left here. What's also curious is that, yes, we have to watch them more closely and be a little more in tune to the nuance of their body language. And what's curious, though, with dogs is, yes, we kind of sometimes miss the boat because we make so many assumptions that they're forgiving, they got this. They're low maintenance. That's not necessarily true. But what is remarkable is that we can read dogs better because we have shared an evolutionary path together. The only two species on the planet that have shared an evolutionary process for 40,000 years. And in those 40,000 years, when wolves kind of separated from dogs, their craniums started getting longer and more slender, and the muscles in their faces started mimicking humans. So dogs actually have more muscles and ways of emitting human-like facial expressions than cats do. It's science.
I definitely believe that. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, Michelle Fern here. My cat's old food was kind of stinky and the cat's breath would smell and kind of old school. I wanted something more 21st century. I was so excited when I found Smalls. My cats have now been eating Smalls for 30 days and I see a big improvement. First, Smalls cat food is protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients, just like you'd find in your fridge, and it's delivered right to your door. Smalls was started back in 2017 by a couple guys that were home cooking cat food in small batches for their friends. Today, Smalls has served millions of meals to cats all over America. I love the fact that I could see a big difference in Charlotte. Charlotte used to get a lot of irritation on her underbelly from nervously itching herself or, who knows what. And now I see a big improvement. That sold me. I am so glad to see this big difference in Charlotte since she started eating Smalls only 30 days ago. The team at Smalls is so confident your cat will love their food that you can try it risk-free. That means they will refund you if your cat won't eat their food. But that's not going to happen because the cat food is delicious and I love how it smells. Give your cat the gift of great cat food this holiday season. Head to smalls.com/petlife and use the promo code PETLIFE at checkout for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's the best offer you'll find, but you have to use my code PETLIFE for 50% off your first order. One last time, that's promo code PETLIFE for 50% off your first order plus free shipping.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm talking with Pilley Bianchi, and she's the author of For the Love of Dog. Okay, so we talked about Chaser and the book in the beginning, first part of the show. Let's talk more about dog. I mean, not only does it talk about what, your dad taught Chaser, but there's all these, do's and don'ts and how to understand your dog better and how to, just all these kind of things. So I was just wondering, what are some of the things that people do with their dogs that just make you cringe?
Wow.
Ben,
Okay.
let it out. Let's tell us what it is.
Where to start? Well, the first thing is that obedience is not the goal in any relationship. People want their dogs to behave, but what does that mean? Obedience, and even with children, is for safety. It's not the goal of your relationship. And if it is, this is not the forum for you. It's a two-way street, and you don't want to dominate your dog. It's not a healthy relationship. It's about give and take. So yes, we want our animals to be safe. We want our children to be safe. So we introduce them to the Latin origin of the word obedience, which is expanding your knowledge, and giving you a set of standards to further enlarge your world. You can't color outside the lines until you learn to color inside the lines. And so people make that mistake in expecting their dogs to know what they want, know what they mean, and that they think that a well-behaved dog is a good dog. A well-behaved dog can be a very sad dog.
Thank you for that. And I think you held back. So thank you. I could tell you some things that drive me nuts, but.
Oh, yes, I'm sure.
I just have to say this, and people that listen to the show have heard this before, and they probably heard it if they listen to Catitude also. Some of the things that drives me crazy is when people have a home and they expect that they're not going to have hair on the floor, or if they have cats.
Oh, Lord.
If you have scratchers. If you have pets, you do not buy like a white leather couch, a white silk couch, or, anything. You don't buy anything white, really, but you shop with the intention of, I have this. I mean, even with kids, I wouldn't do it, but we're talking just for babies. And then you have people that say, how can I train my dog better or my cat better? They scratched, the sofa, this. Well, don't spend, $6,000 on this fancy leather or silk sofa.
Oh, Lord.
You have pets. You have to have some adapt. You have to adapt a little for them. They're way adapting for you.
Exactly. Oh, my God. You just hit another nail on the head. They adapt to our lives so much more than we adapt to theirs. And to expect them to not make a mess or to not have a presence in your home is just frankly uninformed and kind of stupid.
Yes.
For lack of a better word.
Okay, so let's talk about us humans and some things that we're doing correct and not correct. You don't like crate training. So what would you recommend if you, in, all of your years of experience and what you've gleaned over the years with your dad's relationship with Chaser and Yasha, what is the best way to keep your puppy safe? Even if you do spend a lot of time at home, there's times you need to leave, and then what? Because they can get into their own trouble.
Well, they sure can. And I've experienced that. We left one of our puppies. She was probably about 4 months old. And I had just come back from Spain, and I locked her up in my room when the doorbell rang. And I came back and she had just destroyed a pair of Spanish boots, and everything was all over everywhere. And how could I get mad at her? I mean, I left her there alone. This is not one brush that we can use for every dog. Every dog is going to be different and individual. And I'm not a huge fan of crate training. We've never used it. We've always tried to accommodate, the dogs on our schedule and their schedule. But I know people are busy, but just remember that a crate is a cage. It's a euphemism, but that is not your babysitter. To try to find solutions, it require us to be very creative, where it can be leaving your puppy with somebody else, or making sure that you can have her exercised really well before you leave the house so that she doesn't have a lot of energy. Those kind of practical solutions. But it is a deep dive and a requirement when you get a dog that it's going to be an issue, and you got to allow time for it.
Exactly. I will confess, Mr. Zeus, it was just me. I had moved recently and I did have to crate train him, but only until I did have a sitter coming twice a day to walk him, and only until I knew he would be okay. It was probably only a few months. I'm not a fan of continuous crate, when my concern was he's going to chew something and hurt himself. So I was kind of stuck because I couldn't leave him any place for the whole day. And sometimes my hours were super long. And so then I would have someone come in 3 times. But my concern was that he would be injured. But I don't like the idea of a crate where that's where your dog stays all the time.
Right. You're absolutely correct. Because puppies can get into things that we can't even imagine, that are toxic, or they're going to get stuck in their trachea, or that you're going to end up with a vet and having surgery. So you are very wise to put your puppy in a safe environment while you're not there.
Well, a funny story. The only time he ever did anything that was trouble was when the sitter mixed up the times. I had 2 different sitters. The sitters mixed up the times to walk them. So instead of one coming, they were supposed to come so many hours apart. They came 2 hours together, and he was left alone for 7 hours. So they screwed up. I didn't know this till I got home, and part of the baseboard was chewed up.
Oh, Lord.
But human mistake, right?
It is. It's a process. And let's face it, we all make mistakes. That's how we learn. And you'll never find a more forgiving partner than your dog. That's how we end up getting it right. So, yeah, there's always going to be bumps and bumbles along the way, but that's okay.
Exactly. And, for those of you out there listening that are thinking about getting a fur babe, just remember that fur babe is much more important than your new jeans that are now ripped from a scratch. It's in style anyway, right? And then if you have anything left, you just adapt. You have to adapt, because they don't look at it as those are your, as you said, you had Spanish gorgeous boots from Spain. They don't look at it like that. They think of it as a toy or something to chew.
That's right.
It's not saying that it makes it right to us humans. It's upsetting, but
we got to pivot. We have to pivot.
Okay, I like the section that said things your dog likes that we think are gross, which I don't understand why do dogs smell each other's butts if they have such a great sense of smell?
That's the doggy hello. That gives them a lot of information, and their noses, and it's pleasurable for them. So that's the doggy hello. If your dog is not into that, like Chaser was not into other dogs sniffing her butt. This can become offensive, but it's a mutual thing for most dogs. And then they move on. They're like, okay, yeah, I got you. It's the doggy handshake.
What about, and Mr. Zeus used to do this, it drove me crazy. He would gobble stuff from the ground. I always had a mixture watching him. I almost wanted to. I never did this, but I almost wanted to. It got him in trouble. Got sick a couple times. I almost wanted to walk him with
muzzle on.
Yes, muzzle. Thank you. But then I thought that's so cruel. I hate the idea of a muzzle. I only thought it was okay, like if he had to go to the groomer and that was the only way they could cut his paws or something, or something like that. But for a very short time, I wouldn't want to have to put on a muzzle every time he walked. But why does he eat, or did he eat stuff from the ground? Poop, cat poop. I think he ate part of like a dead animal once. That's what got him really sick. And
yeah. They like gross stuff. And what's interesting is dogs our dog, we had horses, and we would go out to, when we would be riding on the farm, we had this dog named Bimbo. He was like a big, he was a shepherd something mix. We don't really know what he was because we used to get our dogs from rescues. And the first thing he would go for was the horse manure. And he would dive into it like it was his last supper. And before we could even get near him, he had downed that horse manure. And what we've discovered, of course, it's gross. It's like, yeah, you don't want your animal to eat feces because there can be, worms and parasites and yucky things in there. But this is the cool thing. When dogs in ancient culture would eat feces and they would lick wounds, and they were actually able, even when they would lick people's hind ends, this was a healing technique used in ancient cultures. The dogs would lick the humans. So in the Egyptian culture, dogs were known as like medicine men because they had so much healing, a lot of healing property in their saliva. So I don't know what drives that instinct, but it's there, man. It's really strong.
I'd see that though. I remember somewhere in some of my readings that some cultures use dung, which is another name for poop, as a way to preserve certain things or fix certain things.
There are indigenous cultures today in Africa where they're street dogs. And the street dogs hang out with the children that run around kind of buck naked. And the dogs clean their little butts. It's a copacetic human canine relationship that's beneficial for both. So strange little tidbits of knowledge that you probably never knew.
Never thought I would use it.
I know that we'd be talking about this on the radio.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll move away from poo now. Let's talk about dog play, because I liked what you in this section, how it seemed to focus on if you're playing with your dog, play with your dog. Get away from that you're halfway involved or you're not paying attention. Focus. If you're at the dog park, don't just let your dog go and, find some friends to hang or stick with your phone. Get involved. What can we do better?
That's such a good question. And what we found is that people buy their dogs toys and they expect them just to play with the toys. But what we discovered with Chaser, and I've even discovered with a lot of other dogs, is that it's the engagement. It's the tossing the toy back and forth and throwing it and both running. Your dog will run for it. You run for it. You can run for it. It's the cat and mouse game that is so engaging with your dog. And what this actually does is it builds your bond. It strengthens your relationship and it feels good. Play feels good for all species, which is why they do it.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but thank you for that answer. What do you think we can learn from our dogs? Us humans, we think we know it all. Some of us know we don't know it all, but we think we know it all sometimes. But there's a lot we can learn from our dogs.
Yes, that is so true. We can learn to live in the moment, to be in the now. The now gives us the moment of joy. And we all want to wake up with an enthusiastic partner and have some fun and messy parts in the middle, and then have someone that we can cuddle with at night. This is dogs. Don't we all hope to be good dogs?
I'll tell you, right now we just have one in my household, and he's an old Havanese, and it's more my partner's dog. He likes little dogs. I like bigger dogs, like my border collie mixes. I miss Mr. Z, but I want to travel, so I don't want to be selfish because it's not fair to my, fur babe.
Yeah. It's very wise to be considerate of the animal that you bring into your home that's going to be copacetic with your own lifestyle. That's wise.
And get along with 3 cats that are all different, that all have their own, way of,
yes, consult them too.
So at this point, we're almost out of time, but was there anything you wanted to mention before I ask where people can get the book that you wanted me to ask that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Well, the most thing about this book is that this is a book that my father and I had been working on before he passed away. And he stressed that science needed to work harder to deliver valuable information to people in ways we can understand and see ourselves. And that is what this book is. It's a combination of science, philosophy, and just how-tos. And it's not only how to get to know your dog better, but it gives us a glimpse into how unique this species really is.
And it's a fantastic book. I mean, it's so engaging, and it's with all the science that's in there, it comes across, very well for someone like me that's not a scientist. Where can people buy the book?
Well, that's a good question. It is available online, kind of anywhere where you want to buy a book, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It should be in a bookstore near you. But you can find it also links on my website, which is pilleybianchi.com. But hopefully you'll be able to find it somewhere easily and accessible.
And it's For the Love of Dog by Pilley Bianchi. And we're going to also have the information for those of you that are listening while driving or exercising or, maybe, you shouldn't. Well, I guess you could listen while you're walking your dog, but folks your dog too. But we'll have it on information on the episode page for this show. So, Pilley, I want to thank you so much for coming on Best Bets for Pets. I so enjoyed this interview, and it was so wonderful to talk to you about For the Love of Dog. And my deepest condolences. I read in the back you lost your mom and dad in Chaser in a period of, if I remember, 19 months?
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Michelle. We had a good run. And thank you for having me here today. It was fun, and I really appreciate it.
It's wonderful to have you. I hope you all enjoyed this show. What a great guest. I really recommend this book. It's called For the Love of Dog. It's by Pilley Bianchi. It's PilleyBianchi. Okay, if you didn't get that, go to the episode page, send me an email, michelle@petliferadio.com. But so much insight and such great information. It's like a reference book, but it's more storytelling. It's just amazing. And so, again, thanks to my guest for coming on Best Bets for Pets. Thanks to Mr. Z and Cassidy, who taught me what it is to love and really understand a dog. And oh boy, though, I could go so much further. Is there a puppy in my future? Who knows? Thanks to Mr. Nicky, the Havanese. He's a cute, white, fluffy dog. Not my first choice, sorry. This is my partner's choice, but we love Mr. Nicky. Thanks to the cat crew, teaches me about cats, which makes me appreciate dogs sometimes, but I still love my cats. Dennis, Charlotte, and Molly. And of course, thanks to everyone listening to Best Bets for Pets. I appreciate it so much. We've been on the airwaves 13 years and counting. So hey, lucky 13. And then, of course, thank you so much to my producer, Mark Winter, for working his magic and making this show sound so much better. You have no idea the magic he works. So thank you, Mark. And hey, remember, keep listening. You never know what we're going to have next on Best Bets for Pets.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.